Why does society hate lovers but likes husbands and wives? Society is not based on love. Society is a certain external order, and love is an intrinsic order, internal order. So love and society are different, are opposites. It's simple. Society means man relating to another man on the basis of preset, well laid out rules. It's an external order. So you have to walk on a particular side of the road. I too have to walk on a particular side of the road. Right? And we have to stand in a queue. So man relating to man on the basis of a pre-established order. That is society. And what is love? Love is man relating to man on the basis of an innate order. So the society cannot like love. The external order is dead. The internal order is dynamic, alive, kicking. And the internal order is very, very rebellious. It does not like any external orders. The force of love does not tolerate any external rules, traditions, impositions. It does not like them. So always there is a clash, a dissonance between society and lovers. Society wants an external discipline. Love moves on its own inner discipline. This inner discipline is very beautiful, but it does not conform to external patterns. So society is unable to recognize it or trust it. It is very difficult for society to trust love. In fact, the society cannot trust anything. Society is founded on mistrust. Where there is trust, there is very little space for rules. And the society is all rules and rules and rules. Society can't even trust, and love has faith. Such is the distance between two. How can the two go together? Society says, whenever you give something, take a receipt. Love says, keep on giving and giving without even knowing to whom it is going. How can these two go together? So, society feels afraid of the force of love. The more there is innate order, the less there is the need for external order. A healthy society would be one in which there would be a live force that would realize the power of love and not impose any rules on it. But to do that, you require a very sensitive eye. See, obviously, there are a large number of people in society who are absolutely loveless. For various reasons. Conditioning, this and that. For them, you need to have rules. Otherwise, they'll just run amok. And any possibility of liberation for themselves itself depends on whether they follow rules. So it is very much appropriate that they are kept under rules. A student must come to the classroom first. Only then there is some possibility of him learning anything. So rules are needed. For a loveless mind, rules are very much needed. But if those same rules are applied to a loving mind, then there is disaster. So you need to have an eye that is able to distinguish between these two and not impose the loveless norms upon the loving. But that I will then need to actually be an authority and not accountable to anybody, because these things cannot be explained. How will you explain why a certain provision, a certain rule was relaxed for one particular person? And it is impossible to demonstrate that this mind is loving and that mind is loveless. So that authority then cannot be accountable to anybody. If you start asking that why did you relax this provision for that man? Why are you relaxing some provisions for the Buddha? It is impossible to show why. Impossible. It is impossible to show why a king climbs down from his throne and bows down in front of a Buddha, and he doesn't do the same to other people. Now, had it been the age of modern liberal values, an impeachment motion would have been brought against the king. And he is distinguishing some kind of linguistic discrimination or racial discrimination or some other kind of discrimination is going on. The king does not bow down to so many people, but he is bowing down to this man. Why is he bowing down to this man? Now, how can the king explain that here I see intelligence, that here I see something sacred, which I do not see in others? So I have to bow down and I have to relax the usual terms of protocol in case of this person. He is different and deserves a different treatment. And this cannot be proven. There is no way of proving this, that this man is different. You only need to have the eye to see. It cannot be proven to somebody who doesn't have that eye. How can you show colors to the blind? Even to the blind, somehow it can be managed. But how can you show colors to someone who is forcibly closing his eyes? So this cannot be proved. But one thing is certain, that the dead structure of society strangulates love. And that's a tragedy. That's such a tragedy. So we have a society in which there is an external order and things are externally well in place. You have the traffic moving nicely in one direction. You have government offices. You have rail services. You have the entire democratic setup. And it appears that things are all going all right. You have hospitals, you have schools and colleges, and you have various institutions. You have economics, you have polity, you have the judiciary, you have the police and the rest of the executive. So it appears that everything is orderly. But it's a dead and imposed order. It is not arising from your heart. In fact, whatever arises from the heart is crushed down under the weight of this order. Because what arises from the heart is very rebellious. It is not prepared to remain subjugated. It will clash. And the external order is strong and powerful. It has means and methods and resources. It will subjugate and kill. The internal one will rise again. That's another matter. In some other form. One man can be killed, but love cannot be killed. So you can kill a couple of lovers. But love will arise again in the shape of some other body. And ultimately love will triumph. But yes, persons will suffer. Persons can be killed. And they are killed. The inability to recognize consciousness is the worst failure of any kind of social written order. No order has any provision for recognizing consciousness. It just treats all bodies as the same. So if there are 100 drunkards and a Buddha and they go to a polling booth, the votes of each of them will carry the same weightage. Because the rules are the same for everybody, and we pride ourselves on this. Same rules for everybody. And we don't see what a blunder it is. And that exactly is the situation of the world. If there are 100 people, 99 are drunkards. So what kind of governments will you get? A drunken government. Had it been a conscious society, then the Buddha's vote would have 1,000,000 times more weightage than the weight of your so-called ordinary man. And Buddhas are always in a minority. So their votes will never count. Never count. Whose votes will count? The votes of the drunken masses. That is the inability of any kind of social order. It is made for the masses. And it does not recognize any Buddhahood. In no social order is there any provision, any scope, any relaxation or any respect for consciousness. Are you getting it? So an order would be issued that nobody must walk the streets after midnight. Because it is assumed that whosoever walks the streets after midnight is either a thief or a scoundrel. They will not realize that somebody might like to go on a night walk at 2 a.m. Whosoever goes there would have to meet the weight of the social order. And they are all right, they are very right. Because 99 out of 100 people who are roaming around at 3 a.m. are thieves and drunkards. That's the shortcoming. It has no eye for love. It has no eye for understanding. It has no eye for consciousness. To take a weighted average of 3 numbers, you must first know their weight, right? To give the vote of the Buddha a special weightage, you must first give special weightage to the Buddha. How can you give his vote special weightage when you do not give the Buddha a special weightage? It's a very Buddha-less society that we have. It's a very un-Buddha-like society that we have. If I do not respect the Buddha himself, why will I respect the value of his vote? First of all, you must have the eye to realize and recognize and respect the Buddha. Only then you can give his words or his opinion some weightage.
As I have read stories and many other things from Zen monks and other Buddha stories, I always had a doubt that if right now, if a Buddha arrives, then he just can't go and meet the president. Whereas in the older times, it was the civilization, when it was all the kingdoms and all, it was very, very easy for a king. If not easy, a very good possibility. There have been several examples. So, do you think Or is it that with the growth in educational system and industrialization, to reach the reach of a Buddha has also decreased or declined, or it's declining with it has become more faithless, the society, not open to ritualism?
No, see. Not only does the society change, the expression of the Buddha also changes with time. The Buddha is not a static unit. His expression, his demeanor too changes with time. So when I say Buddha, do not think of Siddhartha Gautam. That's not what I am referring to. When I say Buddha, I am referring to Buddhatva. I am referring to that within the Buddha, which is his essence, that knows how to operate in a given situation, in a given time.
So, you have given the example of the animal in explaining that previous point. So, I would like to have an example. Is there any real life example of love without relationship? Maybe I can understand it better then.
See, 2-3 things are there. If I say here as an example, Anu and Prasanna, how does that help you? And what will you do with this example? If I say here as an example, Anu and Prasanna, now what will you do with this example? I've given you an example. Now do what you want to do with it.
Sir, because from the time of birth, always examples are given to us. Examples always facilitate us anything to understood.
And what kind of order is that? Is that the external order or the internal order?
I think external order, sir.
So using the external order of examples, you want to understand the internal order? Examples are given exactly so that you can be subjugated under the weight of examples. You are not chewing your food, son. Mahatma Gandhi used to chew it 32 times. Now the son is under the tremendous weight of the Mahatma. What can he do? Why does the mind need examples? And what will it do with the examples? I have given you an example. Anu and Prasanna. Neither do you know Anu, nor do you know Prasanna, nor do you know anything about the relationship with them. And even if you know, all that you will get is some information, some knowledge. Will you ever be able to taste the relationship between them? It is between these two. What will you do with it? Even if I tell you that those two are lovers, there. See, those two who are walking hand in hand, they are lovers. Does that make you taste some of the love between them? What will you do with examples in such a case? And how will you verify? You will verify using your own standards. Had your own standards been appropriate and sufficient, you would have already known love. Why would you need examples? Would you love by example?
It is only subjugation.
When you taste love, would you taste love according to examples? My neighbor is setting such a brilliant example of loving a girl who is 3 inches taller than himself. So I'll follow in his footsteps. Is love something that follows examples? Does it follow examples? Do examples and role models have any place in love? My grandmother was seen by my grandfather 8 years after their marriage. 8 years after their marriage, my grandfather first saw the face of my grandmother. Will you follow the example? That used to happen, do you know that? There used to be child marriages where nobody would, actually the kids would be fast asleep. The marriage ceremony would extend over 20-30 hours and the kids are sleeping and the marriage is going on. And then the kid goes away, sitting on somebody's shoulders. And the kanya is so small. She is drinking some milk from her bottle. And then when she gets to the age of 12, then there used to be Gona. You know what Gona is? So then for the first time, the groom will look at the bride. Oh, she is my wife of 10 years. Since 10 years I am a husband. She is my wife. See. Examples. Glorious examples. And there are other examples. What? Love does not proceed by any convention, by anything that is established, by any tradition of the past. It does not seek to violate them either. It has nothing to do with them. Neither does it go by them, nor does it seek to violate them. It simply is indifferent to them. There is no question of examples or role models or traditions or conventions in love. Or when you start feeling love, would you go and search, can I find a suitable example? Only then I will proceed. Otherwise I will tell her or him, whatever. So you see a turtle and you Google, is it alright to love a turtle? And if you don't get an example, then you drop the turtle. No examples. You might be the first man on this planet who's fallen in love with a turtle. So what? So what? Don't you have the guts? Don't you have love? Turtles don't think this way. They won't go and Google. Why do you want to Google? If you are loving towards a turtle, see how it responds. Turtle never asks, Mama, is it alright to be nice to this one? And Mama says, wait, let me first go and ask the elders. And turtles live long, 200 years. So, maybe they can find an example from 2 centuries back. Doesn't happen. It's alright. Spontaneous.